and welcome to this video. In this video, you will learn about getS and putS function in stdio.h. Let's start. In the previous video, you learned that stdio.h header file contains a group of inbuilt functions which will help to read the data and to write the data using standard input and output. It means using stdio.h we can read the data from keyboard or file and we can write the data using monitor and files. These are the input and output functions provided by stdio.h which helps to read the data from the keyboard and to write the data onto the screen, which is monitor. And also in the previous video you learned about getChar and putChar. Using getChar, we can read single character from the keyboard while executing the program, and using putChar, we can write single character onto the monitor during the execution of our program. Now, let's see about getS and putS functions. GetS. Get means read. S means string. We already know that string means group of characters. It means using getS function, we can read a string from the keyboard, or we can say we can read a line from the keyboard. We already learned that when we are using any built-in function, we must know the syntax. Now let's see the syntax for getS. getS will read a string from the keyboard. After reading the string from the keyboard, where we need to store that string? In the string variable, or we can say onto the string data item. That string variable we need to represent within the parenthesis, and statement must end with semicolon. Now let's see putS. Put means display. S means string. So using putS function, we will display a string onto the monitor. Now let's see the syntax for putS function. This is the syntax. putS display the string where the string was stored onto the string variable, which we mentioned when we read the string using getS function. Now let's see this getS and putS function with an example. Let's create a new file, new empty file. Let's save this program. I'm saving this onto the desktop with the name getsputS.c. Now click on save. This is the basic structure of our program. Now let's declare a string variable. We know that a string variable will be formed using char data type. Let's give the data item name, which is student name. We must give the size. Let's say we want to take the student name maximum of 100 characters. In the previous video, you also learned that this data item will be stored onto the memory, and computer stores the information in the form of zeros and ones, and its measurement will be in the form of bits and bytes, and character data item will occupy 1 byte onto the memory. But this is a string data item because we mentioned the size here. As each character occupies 1 byte onto the memory, here we are taking maximum of how many characters? 100 characters, right? So this data item, student name, will occupy 100 bytes in the memory, which is 100 into 1 byte, as each character occupies 1 byte. Let's see the memory representation for this data item. When we declare a string data item, based on the number of characters, that many bytes will be allocated onto the memory, which is 100 bytes now. And for these 100 bytes, we are giving the name student name. So to store the data onto these bytes and to retrieve the data from these 100 bytes, we will refer with the identifier, which is student name. Now let's read the data onto this identifier and let's display the data which is stored in this identifier. Let's go back to our program. Let's give information to the user. Enter your student name. Then only during the execution the user can understand what he should do first. For that we should use printf. We will inform the user as enter your name. As this is a string, we need to represent between the double quotes. Okay. On reading this message, the user will enter his name. Now we need to read that name which is given during the execution of the program, and we need to store that name onto this string variable. For that, use getS. Just now we learned the syntax that getS function will have parenthesis, and in between the parenthesis we must give the string variable name or string identifier or string data item, we can say. What is the string variable we declared here? Student name. Once we read the name entered by the user, we want to display that name onto the monitor. So to display that name onto the monitor, we should use puts. Just now we learned the syntax of puts. In between the parenthesis, we need to give the string variable name where we stored our string, that is student name. And before displaying it, we want to add some nice text. For that, we should use printf. And we know that getS and puts are the predefined functions which are available in the header file stdio.h. Now we need to represent that in the linkage section. Hash include stdio.h. Now let's save the program, compile and run. Now our program is compiled successfully. Now let's run our program. Now the execution is waiting for the user to enter his or her names. Now let's give the name. Now getS will read this as a string. After reading this one as a string, it will store that onto the string variable which is student name. This is the value which is stored onto the student name. Now to say that the input is finished, we must press enter key on the keyboard. As soon as we press enter key on the keyboard, this statement will be executed. And after that, this statement will be executed. Now click on enter. First, it will display this statement. After that, this one will be executed. Puts will display the string which is stored onto the string variable student name, which is this one, like this. And one more thing I would like to say here. If you notice, after the message please enter your name, we given the name. But this name is combined with the text, right? So there is no clear separation between the information and the user input. And also when we see this statement, there is no space here. I mean, after the text we should give space, then we need to display the student name. Then the input and output will be clear. Let's do that now. Let's exit this command prompt first. So we should give one space. Here also we should give one space. Let's save this program, compile and run. Now our program is compiled successfully. Let's run. Now we can see here there is one space, and now give the name. Now press enter key. Now we can see here there is also a space. Now the input and output is clear, right? This is the way we can read a string using getS and display the string using puts. One more thing I would like to say here, a string means a line. We will stop here for now. In the next video, I will teach you about scanf and printf functions. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you next time.